The Shepherd's Boy and the Wolf. A shepherd boy, who watched a flock of sheep near a village, brought out villagers 3 or 4 times by crying out, "Wolf, Wolf," and when neighbors came to help him, laughed at them for their pains. The wolf, however, did truly come at last. The shepherd boy, now really alarmed, shouted in agony of terror, "Pray, do come and help me. The wolf is killing the sheep." But no one paid any heed to his cries, nor rendered any assistance. The wolf, having no cause of fear, at his leisure lacerated or destroyed the whole flock. There is no believing a liar, even when we speaks the truth.
The moral of the story. The Shepherd Boy and the Wolf is a classic story with a moral about lying. Its original moral story of the common phrase, to cry wolf. Always tell the truth. Or at least don't lie.
St. George in retirement. After many centuries of hopelessness and superstition, St. George, in the guise of rationality, appeared in the world somewhere about the 16th century. The first dragons upon whom he turned his lance were those of despotic kingship and religious intolerance. These battle won, he rested for a time until such questions as slavery, or prison conditions, or the state of the poor began to command his attention. During the 19th century, his lance was never still, prodding this way and that against the inert scaliness of privilege, vested interest, or patrician insolence. But unlike St. George, he did not know when to retire. The more he succeeded, the more he became bewitched with the thought of a world free of dragons, and the less capable he became of returning to private life, he needed his dragons. He could only live by fighting for causes the people, the poor, the exploited, the colonially oppressed, the underprivileged, and the underdeveloped. As an aging warrior, he grew breathless in his pursuit of smaller and smaller dragons, for the big dragons were now harder to come by.
Moral of the story. St. George in retirement is a story about obsession. Its variation of the legend of St. George and the Dragon was penned by Australian philosopher Kenny Minogue to illustrate the history of liberalism. Not knowing when to quit is the first step of the descent into madness. Beware of St. George in retirement syndrome, the obsession with pursuing a laudable goal.
A useless life. A farmer got so old that he couldn't work the fields anymore, so he would spend the day just sitting on the porch. His son, still working the farm, would look up from time to time and see his father sitting there. "He's of no use anymore," the son thought to himself. "He doesn't do anything." One day the son got frustrated by this, that he built a wood coffin, dragged it over to the porch, and told his father to get in. Without saying anything, the father climbed inside. After closing the lid, the son dragged the coffin to the edge of the farm, where there was a high cliff. As he approached the drop, he heard a light tapping on the lid from inside the coffin. He opened it up. Still lying there peacefully, the father looked up at his son. "I know you are going to throw me over the cliff, but before you do, may I suggest something?" "What is it?" replied the son. "Throw me over the cliff, if you like," said the father, "but save this good wood coffin. Your children might need to use it."
The moral of the story. There is no limit to the compassion parents have for their children. Having kids makes you care for your family beyond your own death. A Useless Life is a Zen story about wisdom and compassion.